This is Safety Bri, your number one safety geek. Why do we have the behaviors that we do? Superheroes in the workplace, right? All of those things that go into making you an effective safety manager. I love what we do. Motivation, learning, teaching, training, teamwork. I geek out over that just as much as I do safety. Hello, my safety friends. Welcome to the Safety Geek podcast. This is Bri, your number one safety geek. How is everybody doing? I hope you are all safe and that you are healthy and that you are settled into what our new normal tends to be right now. I think I've had enough talking about the crazy times lately. I really do. I mean, it's just, the future just seems so uncertain, but at the same time, it's certain that we're going to get through this. So I like to just kind of move on. And one of the things that I have actually seen within this virus is that I see a lot more employers recognizing their employees because they are just like so thankful that the employees are working, especially in those essential businesses. And we as the public, we are recognizing our first responders. We're recognizing our healthcare workers. But what comes to mind for me is that we should have been doing this all along. So what I want to talk to you about today is, yes, it's great that we're recognizing people during this hard time, but what I want to talk about today is why we want to recognize them and why you should continue to do this, and that recognition needs to be part of your everyday routine as well as your normal safety program. So let's kind of dive into it. So what recognition does is it actually goes a long way into building a relationship with your employees. When you recognize your employees for anything that they do that is positive, it makes them feel good about their relationship with you, but then also their relationship with the company. And then when they have a good relationship with the company, then culture starts to change. They will start defending the company because, hey, this is a buddy of mine, right? Like when you have a good feeling about the company you work for, you don't want to have somebody else bad-mouthing it. So you have that going on. And then they also then start to have the same goals as the company. That is what culture is all about. Everybody having the same goals, the same values, and all of that. And it starts by relationship building. And recognition is a great way to start building that relationship. And I'm talking in general here, not just safety, but as a safety manager, you can play a part in this by recognizing the behaviors that you want to see. And then when you actually start recognizing them and doing it publicly, you can start building a sense of competition within your employees. So when you recognize employee one or employee A, I don't know, let's call employee one Joe. And let's say you're recognizing Joe. Yeah, you're building that good relationship with Joe, but you're doing it publicly. And then Mike over here goes, hey, I want that recognition too. It builds that sense of competition. So then they go, okay, what did Joe do to get that recognition? I'll do the same thing. So it actually spreads. It becomes a virus. It becomes something that spreads around your work and it changes culture overall. Now, the downside of recognition is that if you miss somebody, you are hurting that relationship. So you can't always be recognizing the same people as well. So like think about if you have 100 employees and you're always recognizing 5 of them, everybody else is just like, why even do anything? Because those 5 people are the ones that always get the rewards. So another issue is when you don't have any meaning behind the recognition. So this could be like a participation award. And I know that there's kind of some mixed feelings about participation awards. So think about like back in elementary school or when you're raising your kids, if you have kids, where everybody on the soccer team got a trophy, whether they won or not. Where when we grew up, I'm an old person, so when I grew up, the only people that got trophies were the ones that won. But then there was this whole movement about self-esteem, so then they started giving trophies to everybody. So then the parents of those kids were like, hey, wait a minute. My kid won. He should be the one getting the trophy, not the one that just participated, right? So I have mixed feelings about it myself because I'm a runner. And when you do a 5K or you do a marathon or anything like that, you get a medal at the end. And I'll be really mad if I get done with my marathon or my half marathon and you're not giving me a medal because I worked really hard to finish. So getting that finisher's medal is important to me. But it's the way it's framed. It's called a finisher's medal. It means that you finished, right? So if you don't finish, you don't get the medal. So I did actually have to do something to earn it. Unlike where in schools where they give monthly awards and they are basically just like going through all the kids. And like I remember with my kids, they would have like a history award or a math award or a reading award or a champions award or something like that, where they were basically just giving out enough awards so that by the end of the school year, every kid got an award. It becomes meaningless, right? Maybe to the kid it isn't because they don't have that prefrontal cortex to actually understand what's going on. But the parents kind of understand that. And if you have like an employee of the month program where you're basically just going through, you won't give it to the same employee every month. So you're going through the list of employees, it loses meaning. So I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but that's one of the downsides of recognition. So you just have to be cautious about that because it's one reason why I don't like Employee of the Month awards, because when you do an Employee of the Month award, typically it's going to be the same employee every month. So it's great for that employee, but nobody else is going to strive for it because they're just like, I can't even compete with that employee. So there are things that you can do in your recognition program to avoid those hurdles. And those are some things I'm going to talk about. All right. So the key is to have a very defined criteria of what gets recognized and how you're going to show that recognition. And you don't want to limit the recognition to only one person. So if you have a very clear definition of like, you do this behavior, you get this recognition. And it doesn't matter how much of that recognition goes out, you're not going to have that Employee of the Month issue. Now, you might be thinking, but I can't give the same reward to 20 people. I just can't afford that. That's fine. You can recognize them and say, let's say it's a safety suggestion and you go, okay, anyone who submits a suggestion to improve the safety program, they're going to get recognized. But I can only give out one award every month. So then you can say verbally, these are all the people that did suggestions, their name goes into a hat, and then you randomly select one for the gift card or whatever it is you happen to be giving that month away. So it still limits your budget, but it's not limiting the entry, right? Where when you say, well, the best safety suggestion gets the reward, that becomes very subjective. And then people think that, well, I'm not even going to bother submitting one because the chances of me beating, Warehouse Joe who had that amazing idea is none. So I'm not even going to try. So if you treat all ideas the same and equal, then you're going to end up having a better result emotionally, psychologically, right? So you want to have a defined criteria of what gets recognized and how you're going to recognize it. So before we get into the different things that you can recognize, let's talk about ways that you can recognize your employees. So you want to have in your pocket like a list of, I say pocket, but it's theoretical, but a list of different ways that you can recognize your employees. So that way you have a go-to list, right? If you do this, then you're going to get a one-on-one recognition, which means I go directly to that employee and I say to them, hey, I saw that you did this thing. I just want to say thank you. It was really appreciate that you did that. It could be me as the safety manager doing that, or maybe your one-on-one is the GM of your location or the president of your location seeking that employee out. That could be just as powerful. Or maybe you recognize them during a pre-shift meeting. Generally, people will have a pre-shift meeting, especially if you have kind of like a production, construction, that type of operation. You have like a 5-minute pre-shift meeting every day. This is the work we're going to do today. If you have people to recognize, then you can recognize them at that point as well. So it could be maybe anybody who did a certain thing the day before. Then the next morning's pre-shift meeting, they get recognized for it. If you do larger meetings, like larger town hall meetings where you get your entire management or your entire team together, including the management team, then that might be for bigger recognitions. So it's very, very public. You're putting it out there in front of the entire company that somebody did something that's worth being recognized. Another idea is to post it in the break room. So if you have a break room monitor, I know I've talked about this before where people have like electronic posters and things like that. You can put their picture up in there and state what they did that deserved that recognition. Or you can just print it on a piece of paper and you can post it up in the break room as well. That works just as well. Make sure you show their picture when you're recognizing people in this way, because so many times, especially in larger organizations, we recognize people by face, but not necessarily by name. And people like to see their picture up there. They really do. It's, I don't know, it's just one of those things that when people see, they have a sense of pride or something when they see their picture in there. You could list it in the break room, right? So you should already be recognizing like birthdays, work anniversaries, any special milestones people have reached. You can do that in the newsletter as well. And if they did anything else significant, you can put it in your newsletter. One idea I really like, I've never tried personally, but is to do a text message. So this one company that I went to, they had a group text for everybody in the warehouse. And whenever anybody did something special, if they could snap a picture of it, they would, but they would send out a text message and it kind of went out to everybody. So it's a great way to recognize everybody. They also use that system for hazard recognition. So if there was a hazard that needed to be reported, they would do it through that same group text message. So I thought that was really cool. I do know that you need to watch text messages though, because some operations won't allow the cell phone use. Or some states don't allow you to use your employees' personal cell phones. But I love that idea of just like, it's a quick text. Sometimes we don't do recognition because it is too difficult or it's an interruption in the day, or text message is so quick and easy to do. Another trend I'm seeing that I absolutely love is recognition on social media. So my local Walmart has a Facebook page. And they literally highlight one of their employees every day on their Facebook page. They take a picture of them, they say what department they work in, and then they talk about what a great job they're doing. So I don't know how they're selecting this employee every single day, but I just think that that's amazing. And if you have a company Facebook page, you could do it nationwide, just like my Walmart does it to the public. But maybe you have a Facebook group that is just for your employees. And if you don't, this is an amazing thing to have. You could have a Facebook group that is just for your employees. You can make it private. You could share safety information on there. And that way, when they're flipping through Facebook, they can choose to see your stuff. So it's definitely a great way to communicate with your employees. And it's free and it's cheap and it's easy. We should probably do a podcast on that, like how to manage a Facebook group for safety. That would be incredible. Another thing that I have seen is people posting recognition on LinkedIn. So they will actually like put like a picture and say, hey, I'm very thankful to this employee and this is what they did. And they put it on LinkedIn. If your employees are on LinkedIn, so let's say that you have a very professional operation where your employees are on LinkedIn, then that is definitely the way to go. I know with safety that's kind of hard. Like we are generally supervising employees that are out in the field and working and they're not necessarily on LinkedIn. If you are a regional safety manager, let's say that you're at a higher level and you've got a group of safety managers under you, then this would be a great way to recognize your employees that are under you is to use LinkedIn. If it is more of like hourly employees, people working in the field, then I would use a Facebook page or a Facebook group. And then the last idea I had is like if you do an annual banquet. So a lot of times companies will do like an annual cookout or something like that, something with their employees. Take a moment and recognize different levels of employees. I love it when it's a banquet setting where you can create like 10 different categories of employees, the one that reported the most safety suggestions for the year, or the one that was caught working safely the most for the year, or the mentor of the year, which I think I have this further down in my notes as well. But different things like that, you could do at an employee banquet, and maybe you give them a bigger award, like a trophy or a plaque or something like that. But think about it, that recognition doesn't necessarily need to be monetary. It doesn't necessarily need to be a thing that you're giving people. Sometimes just saying thank you and how much you appreciate them is more than enough. Other things you can do is maybe like lunch, like you take them out to lunch or you buy them lunch that day, or they get to have lunch with the head of your company, the GM, the president, whoever it happens to be, lunch with the boss. That would be great. And maybe if you had everybody who qualified for that recognition that month has lunch with the boss, that would be amazing. People love that stuff. So, and if you're in a food service company, then, you can cook for them. That's always good. But the key is that you kind of want to make the recognition public. So even if you are like inviting them to lunch, you can maybe put a poster up saying, hey, this is everybody who won lunch with the boss, and this is what they did to earn that. Okay. So you do want it to be public, so that way you do kind of get that sense of competition. But at the same time, the person getting the recognition realizes how important it is because you're telling everybody about it. So it's really putting that recognition to the forefront. I don't know how many times I'm going to say recognition in this podcast. It's probably going to be like 100. Anyway, okay, things that you can recognize them for is obviously working safely. So if you have this, the way I would do this is like, look at your trending, determine focused behaviors that you want to improve. And then when you're doing that, you're already kind of like doing your marketing material on that. You're doing your training and all of that. But when you see them following that behavior, you recognize them for it. So here we have a very strict criteria. It's well defined as to what you're going to recognize them for. And that would probably just be a one-on-one recognition and thank you. Maybe you decide to throw in a vending machine token on the third time you catch them or something like that. So working safely is a good one because you're going to be reinforcing that behavior. If you see them coaching a coworker, so if they correct a coworker or they coach a coworker, they could get recognition for that. You can recognize people for being mentors. So when you hire a new employee, it's a great idea to pair them up with another employee as a mentor. So that way they can learn how to do the job. So you can recognize them as for being a mentor. But if you have an employee that is like mentored a bunch of new employees, then maybe you have like a Mentor of the Year award. So I was a member of the VPPPA and I was an SGE with OSHA. And so that way I could go do VPP inspections and you can mentor companies to become VPP. And they did a thing called the Mentor of the Year Award. So it was, they would recognize the people that mentored the most people or mentored the most companies that made it to VPP. So I love that idea and bringing it down to our level to where you can recognize employees that are mentoring other employees to work safely. And you can put criteria into that, right? So it's not just about teaching them how to do the job, but it's about teaching them how to do the job safely. So is their new employee working safely? Are they following the rules? Are they doing it correctly? Putting some sort of measurement in that in the way of an observation form, right? So when you observe the new employee working, what score do they get? And what mentors are getting the best score? So that could be one way that you can recognize your employees. You can also recognize them for safety suggestions. And this is where I want to caution you that one suggestion over another should not weigh heavier. I believe we talked about return on investment of safety suggestions. At least somebody did. I've got so much safety stuff in my head. Anyway, so if they offer a safety suggestion that actually saves the company money, you could actually do a return on investment bonus, right? So if I offer you a suggestion that saves $50,000, saves the company $50,000 the first year, a 10% kickback is amazing. Like I would keep looking for ways to improve things. But that suggestion should also have equal weight to the suggestion that only offered, a $10 savings. Not that one is better than the other, but you don't want to prevent people from like, oh, I'm not even going to suggest anything because he just won with that $50,000 one. So there shouldn't just be one winner. It should just be overall, everything is equal. This one company I visited, what they did is every safety suggestion went into a hat, and then at the end of the month, they pulled a name from the hat, and then that person won. And they actually won like to spin a wheel, and then on the wheel it had high and low level gifts. Something as little as a hat they could win, or something as much as $100 Amazon gift card or something like that. So that way the company's money that they were putting out for the incentive was kept within budget, but at the same time, everybody had an equal chance. And then based on their budget, they could say, well, we're going to pick 5 names out of the hat this month, or 10 names out of the hat, or something like that. I thought that was an amazing idea too, because it kind of put all the suggestions at equal level. Now, another idea I absolutely love with recognition is actually collecting the data on the small catches. So like every time that you're catching somebody working safely, if you actually collect that as data, which you guys know I'm kind of a data-driven person, or every time they're coaching a coworker or being a mentor, you collect that as data, and then you can come up with a safe worker of the month. But it's based on data. You just have to make sure everybody is observed equally. Because what will happen is you'll have some employees that maybe work the late shift that aren't around when safety's around. So you have to come up with a way that everybody is observed equally. But if you want to do like an employee of the month, there should be data behind how you're choosing the employee of the month. And everybody should have an equal representation to get in there. So if they don't have that equal representation, then I wouldn't do it. So it could be tricky. But if you have one shift and you actually specifically go out and look for specific behaviors and you spend the same amount of time every day doing that, everybody has an equal opportunity to do that behavior and then collect that data, then you can essentially have a safe worker of the month. The key is when you're recognizing people, you don't want to recognize the time worked without an injury or the miles driven without an accident. All that's going to do is hide your injury and accident reporting. It does not work, guys. I mean, it'll work to get your accident rate down. Believe me, I've done it. I throw in safety bingo and guess what? We don't have any reported accidents. It's a miracle. I made everything safe just by playing bingo. But your underlying cause of the accidents are not taken away. So you're eventually going to get them going. And then what happens is you have employees that will then pressure employees not to report accidents, which is what I saw. So like we would play safety bingo, or I would put up a banner that said, hey, we're 100 days safe. And then when somebody got injured, if I didn't happen to witness it myself and make them get treatment, they would actually hide it. So long before Dr. Michaels and OSHA or like we have to take away this injury reporting thing on incentives, I was already seeing the downside of it. So it's definitely there. So yeah, giving away cars and what else did I saw jet skis. Yeah, I had a company give away jet skis and TVs if you were accident free. And yeah, they went 5 years without an accident, but the minute I made them stop doing that, their accident rate went to heck and back. So anyway, so make sure you're not doing it for reporting injuries. And recognition should be built into your program. So it should be something that you and your entire management team are doing every day to build culture and to build relationships with your employees. And the idea I love the most is the 5 penny idea, which I know pennies are kind of hard to come by now, but you could do like stones or buttons or gems or something like that too, where you start with 5 in one pocket and every time you recognize somebody, you move it to the other pocket and you can't finish your day until all 5 are done. So it's a nice reminder because every time you put your hands in your pocket, you feel the little pebble or penny or whatever it is you happen to be using. I have a glass bead I've been using lately, but it just kind of reminds you that, hey, I need to do some recognition, and then it gets you looking for recognition. So recognition should be built into your program to where you're always doing it, and it doesn't have to be safety related. The overall goal of recognition is to build relationships with your employee. So even if you're recognizing like, I am so glad you came into work today, or you were on time, or you're working really hard and, you know, I see the productivity is up from your station, whatever it happens to be, overall, it's going to affect safety because when you change culture, it's going to improve safety. So the recognition that you do does not always have to be safety related. Alrighty, my friends, that is all that I have for you today. If you like this, make sure that you pop something in the show notes and give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And I will chat with you guys next week. Bye-bye. You can check out the show notes and links for this week's episode at thesafetygeek.com. If you like this podcast, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. There are occasional bonus episodes that I don't always advertise, and you won't want to miss them. One more favor, leave a review on that app too. It helps others find the show. Thanks. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to talk to you next week.